This is a tutorial on the fire hazard hardening and defensible space disclosure. This is a new form or newer form, and it's required by the state of California. And it's actually fairly simple to fill out. We'll go through it very quickly. I've logged into forms.openhometeam.com. I'm in the file manager. I added this form 317. It's just 2 pages, and we'll go through it quickly. You'll start by putting the property address up here, and then you'll see that there's some text about the law and the disclosure. Now, this disclosure, technically speaking, is only required if the property is in a high or very high fire hazard zone. So how do you know whether or not it's in one of those zones? Well, the easiest answer is to look at the NHD report. And there are 2 different types of fire hazard zones in an NHD, and if either of those is checked high or very high, then this form's required. Now, some brokers are going to require this form either way, just so that it's better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it. And that's the logic behind it. So this form is in the file just in case. So we'll go through it. All right. Now you'll see that there's a link here, and you can actually check your property on this link. This is a site that's done through the state. Now, the first thing you actually have to do, or have your seller do, is check one of these boxes. And these are features that make the property more vulnerable. So the seller is going to look at this and say, do I have any of these features on my property that make it more vulnerable to catching on fire? And if the answer is yes, they check the box. And if it's no, or they don't know, then they don't. Now, do they have an inspection? So previously or prior to entering escrow, does the homeowner have an inspection about fire hazard or just hardening the space around the home, making it less prone to catching on fire? If they have it, check it. And if not, skip it. Skip this part. And now we go down here to the disclosure requirement. There'll be some more statutory text here. And now, if nothing else is done on the rest of this form, I'll scroll down quickly so you can see where the end is. If nothing else is done in section 5, the implication is that A relates to the property. And this basically says that the property is in a local jurisdiction that doesn't have a requirement for the owner to get documentation on the property. And that documentation could be like an inspection or some sort of report that indicates the level of fire hazard for the property. And this, of course, can vary depending on county or city or wherever all over the state. But if nothing's done, then it's implied A is the answer. Now, you can see unless if any of the following boxes are changed, these are exceptions. This changes A to whatever these are. So the seller will quickly want to read and just look at if it's in a jurisdiction that has an ordinance, and the seller likely knows because they will have gotten a letter, or they will have gotten a report, or they would have had to procure a report or inspection. So although this form has a lot of legal language on it, it's actually fairly simple. Just as a quick summary, the seller is going to indicate if they know of any of these features that make the property more vulnerable. If they have a report on hand, they're going to check this box, and they're going to just double check and see if any of these relates to the property owner. If not, they're not going to check any of these boxes. And the seller is going to initial, sign at the bottom, buyer is going to initial, sign at the bottom, and this form is complete. Thank you for watching, and please comment with any questions.